What is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Now, this video, these are the kinds of builds I love doing. These are the ones I want to get up early, I want to stay late. I don't want to do anything else but focus on this kind of build. And this is basically taking an old body, putting it on a new chassis. But this build has a humongous twist to it. And what I mean by humongous is, well, A, it's the motor's humongous, the frame's humongous, the rear end's humongous. It's a straight axle front end. Basically everything that shouldn't be able to get low down to the ground, that's what we're going to do in this video. Well, not just this video, because I have got to do this in a, I don't know, 2 or 3 part series, because there's no way I'm getting all this stuff done in the 1 week it takes me to kind of put a video out. And there's no way, heck, I probably won't even do it in 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks, I don't know. But let me get you. Let me show you what we're working on. Okay. All right. So straight C-channel frame. It looks like it's to be a 10-inch frame all the way across. We are keeping the same rear end. I believe he's got a different gear set for it. That way he can do the highway miles, get up to speed. Maybe lay a burnout down or 2 or 7. I don't know. What they did also before it came to me was they narrowed this rear end. It is an offset rear end, and yes, you're looking through here and you're looking in here somewhere, it's going to be pretty difficult to figure out some sort of parallel bar to kind of fit in there, especially a beefy 2-inch bar, keep it spaced out evenly and get a bag on there. But that's for a later day. We will be basically notching this frame, putting the bridge across it, and bagging that rear as well. Now, this is where things get a little tricky, okay? Because, well, I've never heard of a Ford 6.6, and I'm sure there's guys out there that have, so I had to do a little bit of research, and, well, I guess they came in dump trucks, what else? Yellow things, school buses. Yeah, couldn't get that word out. School buses and a few other things. This, I believe, actually, I don't even know what this was out of, to be honest with you. Now, the owner tried to do a couple things to it before it came to me, and was realizing, you know, it might be kind of impossible to put this independent front suspension on it, kind of like a coil setup with spring. Or coil is a spring, but a spring and shock setup. So anyway, let me just show you. This motor is the Ford 6.6. It's 51 inches long. It's 35 inches tall, and it weighs, I think 1,350 to 1,400 pounds, which is a little bit lighter than a Cummins. But the girth on this thing, that's where we're running into lots of problems, where I'm already kind of starting to see problems. And it's a straight frame, but, you know, we just got to work with what we got. Anyways, so the first plan of attack was looks like a Dodge 2500 kind of front end on this. The previous people, oh, if you see there, it's been widened. So got the width down. Now the front of this truck, the F700s, are 89 inches from the inside of the fender to the inside of fender. Now what this setup is currently got, well, that control arm does not go all the way up to the top here. So as soon as this thing airs down or any type of weight on it, well, the camber just completely cuts in. It's horrible. This is a single axle truck, donor truck. So probably should have used a 3500. That way it's got that adapter, kind of brings it out a little bit more. But here's where my brain is going. Well, let me just show you something else real quick too. So we're in the air and we're already almost on the ground. There's your oil pan here, and then there is the transmission right there. So we got about 10 inches right there. So I only want to safely get this thing down, probably down 6 more inches or so. That way, any type of bouncing around, we ain't scraping off oil pans. So, all right, looks like there's only looks like a bolt here, bolt there. So 4 bolts here, 4 bolts on the other side. Get that thing kind of ripped out of here. From what I'm seeing, that's the only thing holding it together. So. Okay, here's my plan of attack. I'm going to take the bottom shock off, kind of leave that with the frame. That should be good on this side. We will torch bolts off here, and then with the steering, I'll just disconnect this. I'm going to call it the banana link bar. Disconnect that. The steering will stay there. Take the other bottom shock bolt off, and then that section should be free to kind of float and slide under there. All right, frame is separated from the axle now. Before I get any further, what I'm gonna do, I don't know why I'm raising it up, you can show you right here. Go ahead and cut these U-bolts off on both sides and get the frame, get the axle up under the frame, kind of get it positioned where I need it. There is a mark right there for my center line. And then what I need to do is start fabbing up, or it's not fabbing up, but start deciding where on the frame the new shackle position is going to be, because like I said earlier, it's not going to go back and stock holes on this frame because, well, everything's slid back on here. Well, it needs to be slid back on here because the body needs to clear the front of this, the core support, the radiator, all that good stuff. So let me go ahead and get those cut off on the what is that? Axle. Almost the end of the day, so my brain ain't working right, my mouth ain't working right, nothing's working right, brain's working good. So anyways, let me get those cut off, and then we'll start kind of laying this under the frame. Things are about to get a little technical, so let's see if you can stay with me, or I'll keep it as slow as possible, okay? Because, well, it's math. Okay, so that is exactly where the truck is going. It's sitting now, obviously. This isn't going to be its final resting place, okay? The axle is sitting on the oil pan right there, okay? Now the oil pan, let's get my handy dandy tape measure out. Yep. Oil pan is 6.5. Can you see that? Yep. About 6.5 inches from the ground, okay? We got to remember that number. Yeah, just remember. I was going to write it down for you guys, but just remember 6.5 inches, which is still pretty close to the ground, but we're going to get it down just a little bit further. Not too much, but very, very close. Now, between here, that's where my bag's going to sit. So yes, it is sitting on my oil pan, but that's okay because my airbag is going to go in between there. And that airbag compressed is we're going to call it 2 3/4, okay? Plus the plating, so let's just round that up to 3 inches. So we're actually going to gain 1 inch because that's 2, okay? That's 2 inches. The bag compressed with the plates is 3 inches. So we're going to add an inch to that. So now from 6.5, we're going to 7.5. Now, he's not running these kind of wheels, okay? These aren't the wheels he's running. He's going to run the Alcoas. These are going to get milled down, but he's going to have a low profile tire, kind of similar to what I have on my dually out there. From the center of that to the ground is about 13.5. It's actually 13.5 inches from there. Okay, so now I want to pop a measurement from the center of that to the ground. We'll subtract those numbers. That's the distance this is going to go down even more. So right, we're at 7.5 because we're at 6.5 an oil pan. Add an inch for the bags, brackets, and all that kind of spacing, which gives me good space for my oil pan. And now, let's see if we're even close. That is, we're going to call that 18 inches. And I said mine was 13.5, so that's 4.5 inches. So now we're going to go down 4.5 inches more than the 7 minus that 7.5. So we're actually going to have that oil pan 3 inches off the ground. So the height it's sitting at right now, roughly it's going to be half of that. And to kind of put that in perspective, Let's go to this International over here. It's the same kind of chassis, same kind of frame. Well, chassis frame, kind of the same thing. It's all the same concept here. That cab, this F700 is going to be sitting just like that. Now, this frame is 24 inches off the ground, okay? 24 inches off the ground. This one is 16. 16 minus 24 is 8 inches. So this is 8 inches lower than that right now. Then we're going to go down another 4 inches. Oh man, my math's already messed. So that's 4 inches, 14, add that to it, right? 8, 12. So it's a foot difference between that. Now, what does a foot difference look like in a wheel well? Well, I know they're not going to be using these kind of wheels, but a foot off of here is going to get it about 4 inches off the ground. That means the skirting on the other one's going to be about 4 inches off the ground. It's pretty close. Actually, I think that other one's actually lower than this one. So still, it might even be 2 or 3 inches off the ground. And then the wheel well, that's a whole bunch more. So from the wheel well, that's 24 inches. Take a foot off of that. That fender is now going to be sitting right there. Completely aired out. Half its distance. I think it's going to be pretty low for this big old truck. All right, from this point forward, I now know I am in the right ballpark as far as where I want to put this axle, and that my plan is kind of going to work, okay? Now I need to raise this frame back up, pull this axle back out, get that, what is that thing called right there? The spring of leaf spring, okay? Figure out how to get that thing mocked up. I got to go get some new U-bolts made, and then we should be able to compress them together, put it back under the frame, and then start figuring out where the mounts go on the frame. Went down the street, got me some bigger U-bolts. Now, this was on top of the spring when the spring was on top of the axle. So now I'm going to use this. Still as a guide, we're going to set that on top of here. Because if without that, these U-bolts just kind of set like that and squishing them down more and more, it's just going to take and start pinching it inside of here. So I would like some sort of spacer in there. Now, yes, I know that's where my bag is sitting, but this is also going to be two functions, I guess you can say. There's my big hammer at. Two functions, meaning, get in there. That is going to allow my U-bolt to sit nice and tight and not kind of squishing and pinching itself into the axle. There's my other one. There we go. Now, it's also going to give me something to set flat. So I'm going to be able to take my round plate, cut this hole out. It's going to set on there, and I might be able to just weld that to my U-bolts and kind of tab it off, but that's for another time. But slide those down. Now what has to happen is the axle or the spring needs to go up inside that axle. Now, this has a guide pin, right? This is supposed to go up into a hole and guide it. However, I'm not just going to make a hole in my axle because, well, I need something in between the spring and the axle from causing my axle to want to wrap, I guess you can call it. So I want to make some sort of U-saddle or saddle that goes up in here, pushes up on this, and then there'll be a plate on the bottom with a hole in it. Now, I've got that getting made. I'm not sure when it's going to be ready. So what I'm going to have to do to mock this up is take some 1/4-inch plate. It is going to be 1/2 inch thick, the one I'm having made up, the U-saddle. So imagine a saddle going up in here. If it wants to wrap at all, it's pushing against the front and the back. I don't like that. This starts wanting to kick at all, which it shouldn't because there's no really torque on this like the rear would have, but it's nice way to get everything to center up and to not, torque on me. All right, so I literally just finished plasma cutting this piece of hunk of, steel out. I was telling you earlier about trying to get like a C bracket or U bracket, whatever you want to call it. And the guy said it'll take till probably Friday to get done. As soon as I set that thing down, I got a call, and the guy said he was done with it. He was actually able to get it in today. And, well, This is what I'm talking about. These are the brackets, the U brackets, C brackets, whatever you want to call it. Out of 1/2 inch plate, because it's a big truck, okay, and because it's heavy. So here is the plan. Yep, all right. So like a smaller axle flip kit, the idea here now is to get this under here, just like so. Boom. That'll weld to the top of the axle. Same thing on the other side. I still need to put a hole in the bottom of here for that to kind of be a guide pin into it. Then I can make my bottom plate to kind of stick everything together, along with the, where is it at? Right there. The, along with the, what is that thing called? A shock bracket. There it goes. So that actually makes this day a whole lot easier and a whole lot more productive, because I don't have to make up some piece just to kind of get it fabbed in there and kind of mock it up. So I'm actually pretty excited. Let me go ahead and get some holes drilled into both of those. I'm going to call them U-cups, and I should be able to start mocking this up. All right, I got my hole in there, and now will sit down inside of there like this. Don't like the way it's kind of, it's still free play in there, front to back. Now, this will be welded to the axle. That ain't moving anywhere. This to the axle. But I don't like how that just has to move around just a little bit. So what I think I'm going to do, I'm going to take this pin, this guide pin out and flip it. There's the actual guide pin. That was on the bottom when this was on top. Now, if I flip those, I can weld this basically to this plate here. And if somebody ever has to change out this leaf spring, all you gotta do is take this nut off the bottom, then the leaf springs will fall out and kind of do whatever. And it's gonna make it tight, and it's gonna give me that warm fuzzy that this is not shifting at all inside that pin. All right, well, surprise, surprise, I may have changed it up again of what I was just doing. So, got the passenger side leaf in there, and well, here you go. That's the idea. For now, until I change it again, here's my thought, okay? And like I said, I might change it as I start getting the bag brackets in and everything else. Here's that saddle, we're gonna call it that little U saddle. Coming up here under the axle and over the other side. That's going to stop it from pitching anyway, or wanting to slide out. I will weld that to the axle itself. And I flipped the U-bolts. Well, here's why. I don't really know why exactly, because either way I have to make a plate. But here's my thought process. I'm going to lose an inch up top regardless. If I flip it over, with that cap I had on there, which the cap is now on the bottom right here. If this cap goes up on top, I still lose this inch of here. My thought is, I flip it this way, I don't have to make a plate for the bottom. If they're the other way, I have to make a plate, basically is similar, that is identical to this on the bottom for the bolts or the nuts to go through. I don't want to make another plate. I think this is stronger this way versus the other way. And it's less material. Now, what I can do with this is when I get my bags, I can make the plate, a round plate here, notch those holes out, slide that plate over top of this, and the plate kind of sits on there and is secured that way. Well, I may have changed it again, okay? Spent most of the morning kind of looking at what we did yesterday, and I wasn't happy with it, okay? I just wasn't happy with it. Decided, let's look at a different route. And well, that's what I've been doing all morning. Didn't bring you guys along with me on the new route because, well, it's basically everything I did yesterday, but reversed, okay? So, yeah, let me show you. All right. That plate that I was talking about that I didn't want to build, I ended up building it. There it is. I flipped everything back over. I put the top through the top. I actually tapered the holes where they go into right there. Those are actually tapered, so it's not like a sharp point on that curve, so any type of vibration can't kind of cut through that. I don't know. Preventative safety, I guess. I don't know what you want to call it. But anyways, don't need to get any lower, okay? Just look, here's my axle. Well, there's my oil pan. So I'm right on the oil pan. So if I want to get any lower, that ain't happening. Now, there's the sump of the oil pan right there. This is the front part of the oil pan. Remember, we are going to be losing about 4.5 inches. So it's going to be 4.5 inches minus that. So the notch idea is out of there. And remember, the bag collapsed is about 3 inches. This is about 1.25 inches right now. And I'll still be able to get that 3 inches in there. So it'll be up a little bit more, and I should be able to look. That's basically what I'm trying to get at. Is that is as low as we're going to get, okay? We ain't getting any lower than that. Unless we start taking oil pans. Then once we start moving oil pans or cutting oil pans and channel on, well, then you just open up a whole nother can of worms, and then you got to do steering stuff, all kinds of mess. So, what I need to do today, oh yeah, by the way, you can see a lot better right here because, well, I had to take the radiator out. This whole, everything, radiator, intake, condenser, everything had to come out because, well, surprise, surprise, ran into some more issues, right? Remember I talked a little bit ago about the axle having to come forward. There's the center line right there. My axle is centered. The front, that radiator actually about here, where you can see kind of the color different. That hangs down maybe 4 inches. And while that hang down in there is hitting where I need to put the front shackle mounts. So I need to take that out, put the shackle mounts in, and then I'm almost certain we're going to have to figure out a whole other radiator system, or if I can raise that whole system up and it still clears his hood, that's okay. We'll have to figure that out after we get the cab on and everything else. But for now, we need to focus on suspension and, like I said, work our way through any problems, as they come. And they're coming. I'm telling you, the problems are coming. Anyways, but moving the axle forward, let's go here. This is my little project we're working on today. Well, I've been working on that project all day, but with you guys, we're going to work on trying to get these mounted. Original holes are right here. This hole lines up with this bolt. Now, problem is that bolt is holding up a motor mount somewhere in there. It's a portion of it, and it's tabbed or it's raised out. I don't know why, but look, my bracket has like a built-in bushing. You see how it's kind of thick right there? It's actually the same thickness as this, so I'm going to shave that flush or grind that down flush. Use that bolt as my hole, and then everything should kind of line back in. So I'll have this hold in there, and then I'll weld all of this to the frame and on the inside in the frame as well. All right, so that's what we're doing today. Well, sort of. Trying to figure out how to get the shackles to mount and make sure everything's straight. Yeah. All right. Here's the fun part about mocking stuff up is, well, it needs to go in, it needs to go out. No, out and in, out and in. Yeah, there it is. In and out, in and out, in and out. And now we're back to taking it out. Okay? So, if I've got to do it, come on, baby. Let's go higher. I'm going to record it so y'all know exactly what I have to do. Come on. There we go. Stay together now. Oh, no. Woo. That was just the nuts on there, okay? It was not, that was just hardware. Nothing broke. Could have been. Now, what I want to do is go ahead and grind those portions down I was just talking about, get those kind of flushed, get the back end mocked up, and then I should start being able to see where this is going to set on the front of the frame. And that's it. All right, now for the tricky front, okay? Because, well, let me show you why it's tricky. Frame tapers here, opens back up, opens up just for a little section, and those two holes are originally where that front spring perch would have sat. Now there's nothing there. So I've got to figure out, do I just replate there, or do I weld that and just use the bolts that are going to the side? There's 4 bolt holes again on this. 1, 2, and then 2 more that way, so 4. The side ones shouldn't be too big of a problem. It's just the bottom ones as far as getting it in, which that may be okay just to kind of weld that one in there. But we'll find out here, before too long. I want to go ahead and get these in there just to kind of see where they're going to sit. Hopefully they're not sitting past the front of the frame, which could be a big problem if it is. Get in there. Come on. Ugh. Okay, I got all the front end back together. Well, together, right? Not back together, but it's all together. The front mounts are mounted, bolted, and nothing in this way yet. Back's all good to go. This is in here. The idea was to have the bag kind of sitting there. Slide this kind of in the frame a little bit to clear my steering, banana, link, whatever you want to call this thing. Should be far enough, okay? So there's my blocking, there's my bottom plate, there's my leaf spring, there's my everything, okay? It's all in. We're taking it all out, okay? We're taking every bit of it out. The last, I don't know, day I've been working on this. We're gonna call that, learning experience. Not really learning experience. I kind of had an idea of what I was doing when I started this. And well, some of the things, actually, one of the things I was worried about is actually starting to happen. And that is that front spring. Now, there was 2 springs. There was one helper spring and then one main load spring. That spring has too much tension on it. Meaning, if I raise the frame up, right? When I raise the frame up, my clearance between my axle and my frame, I get probably 2 inches of clearance. This is 3 inches collapsed. So it stretches, it opens up a little bit. And I took a jack, put it between the top of this spring and the bottom of the frame, and I was able to open it up another maybe 1.5 inches, 2 inches. So 4 inches of travel from here to here. I don't like that, okay? That's not enough travel. And I say that because right now, let's just assume this is aired out, okay? Remember earlier, I've got the oil pan on the axle right now. It's like literally resting on there. And 4 inches above that is not enough travel for me to get this thing up in the air. I actually want to be about 1 inch completely aired out, or 1/2 inch completely aired out off of the oil pan on some sort of bump stop. And if I were to only air it up another 3.5 inches after that, any type of driving down the road or highway, there's a chance you could bump up and really tear that pan up. So 4 inches A is not enough travel to begin with. B, I don't like just the single leaf setup. Now, I think it will hold because, well, it held on the other medium duty trucks. And the other one is a helper under load. But now that there is nothing on there, if this were to snap anywhere, this whole axle is coming out of the truck, okay? So I don't like that we're relying on just one leaf right there. Yes, I could put the helper spring back in. I could probably extend the shackles right there. Probably get it all to work a little bit better, but I don't want to do that. So, yes, contrary to what some of y'all might think, I got a plan B in this scenario. A lot of my other scenarios, no. I just kind of wing it, and I'm kind of winging this one, but I'm not winging it because you've got to think 6 steps ahead in any type of suspension work as far as geometry, rideability, and is this thing going to hold and last? So here is my plan B. Shouldn't take too much more time, but what I've got a bunch of metal now. I'm going to take this perch, which is going to help. If you remember earlier, I took the radiator out, and that radiator sits below the frame. I'm going to take this perch out, and I'm going to move it to the back. That's going to be allowing my radiator to go back inside of here. And I'm taking this one because this back perch isn't the style I need for some sort of link bar that goes from the axle to the frame. All right, so here's what's kind of been on my brain. All right, front solid axle, kind of like a back axle. You could parallel link it. You could three link it. Probably not a good idea in this situation. You could 2-link it. You can triangulate it. You can do all kinds of angulations or whatever you want to call it for some sort of air ride setup. So my brain started going to, let's go ahead and do some sort of parallel 4-link on this. However, there's zero room to do anything on that, okay? Meaning getting this frame is so tall, getting anything offset to kind of go parallel with this frame, and then 2 bars above and below the axle. Because this frame, once again, is just a straight I-beam frame. There's no arch in it. There's no C-channel. There's no nothing in it. It's complicated to really get those parallel bars to sit where I want them to sit throughout its travel. And then after that, you've got to figure out some sort of pan hard bar system, some sort of triangulated to keep this thing, once again, from earlier in the video. We've got to control this movement. We've got to, well, I'll just show you this way. We've got to control the axle stopping this. We need to stop the axle tire wheels from rotating over top of itself. And we also need to keep it from twisting front and back. So where am I at? Well, here's where I'm currently at, and I was sitting here right there on that creeper, just staring at it. Been staring at it for about 20 minutes, and well, I got a phone call. I got a phone call from this guy I've been watching religiously for probably the last 3 or 4 years. His name's Carl Fisher from Make It Custom. I kind of reached out to him a couple weeks ago, maybe over some content stuff, maybe to be able to make, or some sort of collaboration we can do. Anyways, I told him kind of what I was doing at the moment, and well, his 2 cents is to link this, put a pan hard bar, go to his channel at Make It Custom, right, on YouTube. He's also got Instagram. Follow him on both that kind of stuff, which I'll put a link or put some sort of flash up here right now. So here is my plan now. It is going to be basically a 2-link setup. I'm going to take some sort of lateral bar. It's going to go here, and it's going to hard mount to the axle. Okay, no pivot here, because if we pivot here, then we've got to kind of control this. So hard mount here, pivot back here, and just do a pan hard bar. Big enough pan hard bar should be plenty for this setup, and a beefy enough, lateral bar should be perfect for this also. Now, If you're thinking geometry, you've built a few of these before, or you're thinking like, well, now you're hard mounting it, you're going to be air riding it, and this thing's going to start wanting to rotate as it airs up. Correct, it does. But the travel we're doing, I'm running about 1.5 degrees. Okay, so that's not very much. That ain't much at all, especially in this because we don't have any type of drive shaft. We do have the steering right here. So as this axle starts to rotate at 1 degree, 1.5 degrees, well, that's okay because it accounts for it here in the ball joint. Basically, the ball joint right there, some sort of knuckle, so that should help it. So here's my plan, or there's my plan, not here's my plan. I'm not coming up with another one because if this one don't work out, well, we're going to be stuck. Where am I right now? Here it is. I've got this 3-inch square tubing. It's 1/4 inch wall, so it is thick. Okay, that's a whole 1/4 inch. I went ahead and put a pivot here on this side, good bushings. Now this is 2-inch inner diameter and 2.5 outer diameter steel rolled steel, and basically energy suspension bushings on the end. Now what I'm doing here is trying to figure out where I'm going to set this into, or have it hard mount to the axle. Had some plates made up. This is going to be the top plate. It's pretty much going to sit in there like that. I've got to go ahead and cut this all out, get this welded in there so it kind of inlays. All right, finish up the trailing arm plate and mount. This is going to mount in the back. That'll be my only pivot point on here. And these holes are distance for my U-bolts. So this is actually the bottom. This will sit on the axle. Tapered it up so it has a little bit of clearance and it moves past the steering drag link. So turn it. All right, I'm pretty sure I am done now. Well, I'm not done now with the front. I'm just done with the passenger side. And then I've got to kind of rinse and repeat this and do the driver's side. And well, that's about it. You're not going to see the other side. I'm basically just going to do that off camera. But this video is getting way too long. So I'm going to go ahead and show you where I'm at, what I'm doing, what I've been doing. And kind of this is going to be a wrap up for this video. So here's that control arm, this lateral arm that I just was showing you here earlier, right? So pivots back here, comes up to the axle. Remember this plate sits on top of the axle. Instead of U-bolts, I just took some bolts, had to kind of grind down the sides. That's going to help me with not having to put a wrench on there, and it clearances it just right. And it's the same width as what the original leaf spring would have been. Now, in this video, I'm not going to show you guys the panhard bar. I know I maybe mentioned it earlier at the beginning, but I'm going to save that for a bit different video along with plumbing up the bags, the tanks, and everything else. So went ahead and got my brackets mounted for the panhard bar that's going to shoot across to that side of the frame. Yep, and the bag. So these are Airlift 2600 Dominator bags. They collapse to about 2.5 inches, call it 2 3/4. And then they have a travel of 9 inches up to 12 inches. Well, up to 12 inches total, so the travel of 9 inches. I took another plate, kind of welded it on the top of the axle here and over here on the side. It is nice and solid. I took and ran the mounting hardware up, just run one up the center. You don't need a wrench or anything. Basically, you have to unbolt this and basically screw the bag on because as you can see, there is like zero room inside there. You can actually almost kind of see where it's welded in there, but it's good and sturdy. Made a bracket on top, just kind of where I needed it to sit. I still might, because of the weight of this truck, I'm probably going to put some sort of angle bracket from here to the frame just for safety precautions in case. But that is how it goes now. Don't have any lines hooked up to it, obviously, so we'll just go ahead and air it down with the lift. So, bag is not fully collapsed, which I don't want it to collapse all the way. It is sitting right here on my, we'll call it a control arm. It's not really a control arm. The lateral arm? Yeah. And I will put a bump stop between here and there because, remember earlier, we were talking, there's the oil pan. Now I've got this plate just enough to where it doesn't hit the oil pan. Now the other side's hit right now because I don't have nothing on that side. There's a little bit of light in here, so if I add another 3/4 bump stop, we'll get up on top of that. Now, oil pan. You remember from earlier in the video, me having the axle on the front of this oil pan, it was just enough room and clearance. Basically, when the back of the oil pan is fully aired down, now remember the tires, I'm going to lose another 4 inches of ground clearance once it gets the right wheels and tires on this. So that right now is sitting at 7 inches between the ground and the oil plug. Take another 4 inches off of that, and this truck is going to be sitting about 3 inches from the pan. So that is exactly where I want it. I don't want to go any lower. If we have to go any lower, we'd have to, like I said earlier, was notch out the frame somewhere in here, get that bag to sit up higher, or get the axle to sit up higher in there. But I can't do that without channeling the oil pan, which I don't want to do that, or raise the motor up, which I don't want to do. Really, it's just, this is as low as we can get for this project, for a straight axle or I-beam front axle. So that's it. That's where I'm at. I just got to do the other side now, and then we'll start working on the back. But that's it for this video. I am going to go ahead and wrap this up. I do want to thank Carl one more time. Once again, go check his channel at Make It Custom. If you're into fab work, if you're into making your own tools, making your own tooling for your tools, power hammers, profiling hammers, planishing hammers, making your own bead rollers, making your own dies for the bead rollers, making your own English wheels, all that good stuff that goes in with fabbing, or metal fabbing and metal forming and shaping, go look at his channel. He does that. He also builds cool hot rods. He builds cool ramp trucks, which is this kind of the idea I went off of. It's not like his, but it's the straight axle. But anyways, go check his channel out. And thanks a lot, guys, for sticking around for this video. Hopefully, I mean, there's going to be a part 2, 3, and 4 probably for the back air ride. Doing the fab for that, whatever else. So anyways, if you're not subscribed, hit that subscribe button. If you are subscribed, same thing we talked about, in the last videos and the ones before that, share this out, okay? Share this out. Anyways, thanks a lot, guys, for sticking around. We will see you guys next time.